Hi, Darlene Morgan here with Unmaking a Mess. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stick with us. Definitely listen to the end where I actually, this time I included some discussion questions, which I really want to create some opportunities for everybody to pitch in and kind of give me some ideas of what you think about the work and the recordings. And also, please share and subscribe. Remember, you can find me here on YouTube, Unmaking a Mess, as well as other platforms. I have a podcast titled the same, as well as my online blog, Unmaking a Mess, and also my Facebook page titled the same, Unmaking a Mess. So plenty of ways that you can listen in or read when you're able to. Definitely share and subscribe. I appreciate it so much. Okay, so this was written back on May 25th, I believe it was. And so not too far back. Always, it's definitely still relevant. This talks a little bit about pacing yourself. In this case, pacing myself and just really getting into the changes that we make as we're growing up, we're growing older, and how much we can actually do and what we're willing to set aside in order to do it right or give ourselves a break. Because I think we find the older that we get, it's not like, we don't want to keep up. We actually do want to keep up, but our bodies find ways of telling us when to slow down, which is totally fine. It's much needed. Okay, so this one I titled The Room. I'll be reading from my laptop, so as you see my eyes divert downwards, I'm reading from that blog post as well, which you can find online. Okay, here we go. The Room. On this particular day, I rested. It wasn't my idea. God knew I needed it, and my body found a way to make it happen. The night before, I felt a scratch in my throat, and the next morning, I was so tired I could barely get up. I slowly made my way to the kitchen where I put on a kettle of hot water for tea. I didn't want coffee, and when I realized this, I knew that I was probably destined to be sitting all day. I so badly wanted to finish the front room where my daughter and I began the work of clearing it out and organizing it to make room for all the stuff she brought home from her college apartment. I was really getting into it the night before. The clearing out, the cleaning out, the organizing, and putting up the curtain rod I had avoided doing for so long, and hanging up the curtain that I had just bought that night. So when I woke up that next morning feeling more than weary, I knew I probably just had to give in to what my body was telling me. And it was saying, slow down, rest, give yourself a break. I had been going strong for the last month, working on my yard, cleaning out rooms, taking time at the coffee shop, taking care of a very sick cat, driving my daughter to volleyball practices and agilities, which were sometimes in town and out of town, and end of school events, and also my daughter's graduation party and ceremony. Absolutely full days. And I was positively sure I was missing something. So it did not surprise me that the exhaustion caught up with me. I got my tea, sat down in the living room with my computer just in case I got a second wind. I might want to get some work done. But by noon, I was asleep in the chair. After sleeping for about an hour, I woke up hungry and made myself a bowl of cereal, convinced that once I ate, I would gather up some energy to get something else done that didn't involve my chair and my MacBook. It helped for a while, but I stayed in my chair. By late afternoon, I was done sitting. I needed to get some fresh air no matter how long it would take me. I was determined to go for a walk to the flower garden up the street. I needed the walk and the talk with God. This has much to do with who I am right now. I'm a single mom, an older single mom. I have a home to take care of, daughters to guide and take care of. I'm still part owner of a coffee shop, though I don't spend as much time there anymore. I still help out with quite a bit. There's only so much I can do in a day, and now I realize this. When I was younger, much younger, I used to push myself to finish projects. Sorry about that. I had to click off of a phone call there. When I was much younger, I used to finish projects at absolutely no cost, even if it took me until midnight. I'm now able to look at an unfinished room and know that if I want it done right, I have to walk away from it when it's time to sit down and maybe just relax and watch a show with my daughters. If it's cloudy and rainy out, I use those days to do something productive inside, although I absolutely cherish all the time that I can get outside. Even if it isn't cloudy, I do try to finish the tasks that I start indoors, that maybe I began the day before. Still, it sounds like I'm constantly active, and honestly, it is actually very true. It's a different active for me now. It's more calculated and not so insisted upon. I don't force it upon myself anymore, probably because I know that I will eventually get it done. Whatever it is, I just find a way to get things done, even if it takes me a few months. I really marvel at the idea of who I am now, older and happier with who I have become. I wish I had discovered myself years before, but that was the time when God was definitely still molding me. And it was also a time when I was trying to mold myself. Each time I tried to be who I thought God wanted me to be, was the time when I made some of the worst mistakes in my life. I tried super hard to be super good and do only the right thing, only to get really frustrated with the pressure of being exactly polished and then cracking that fabricated mold with being exactly who I thought I would need it to be, only to discover that it took me steps backwards. I do wish I had begun this process of listening to God more. I wish I'd begun the process of eating better and building the exercise routine into my days sooner. I wish the silence in me had surfaced before I said something I often regretted. I wish the bravery in me had been more brave when I needed it. So many things I wish had happened sooner. I shake my head at the words I just wrote and I just read, because I know that's not how it works. Oh, Darlene, it don't work that way, said a very wise man to me once, a longtime friend of our family, Coach Murphy. It took me a year before I realized how true those words were. But now I realize how extremely true it was. What he meant was, when I am finally ready to let God in my life in ways that even I didn't know, is when I would be comfortable with who I am, and that is when I'm able to help others, care for others, love others, and most of all, love me for who God intended me to be. You see, I thought way back then, after I went through an incredibly difficult time, it was then that God was able to use me, simply because I survived those days and circumstances. Surviving and redeeming yourself from difficult times are two very different things. It takes more than just surviving. It takes realizing your part in the matter and what you can do differently to help yourself. To be able to do much differently that not only helps you, but those around you. It's a huge learning curve. Today, or that particular day, a few weeks ago, I finished the room I had begun working on. As I made my way to my bedroom, I stopped to look at it and I whispered, "Thank you, God." With Him, it was possible. You probably chuckle at the idea of God being a decorator. That's not exactly what I meant. It's just the idea of thanking Him because I know when He needed me to rest in order to finish that room properly. It meant being more patient, how to take care of myself so I can take care of my girls, and so much more. Even a room that holds the daughter's possessions is now another area for us to relax and rest. Took me a while, but I knew when the time was right, I would get it done. And for a lot of us, that takes so much self-control and discipline, which is not always easy when we have so many other things that we have to get done. It really is okay to walk by an unfinished room and know eventually you will get to it. Okay, so for some of your discussion questions that you can write down and answer yourself in your journal or however you like, or post them here. The first one is, what ways did you think you were molding yourself for the better, only to realize it was more exhausting and you were just going in circles? Next, when did you realize you really needed to step back and let God guide you? And how did it feel? How did it make you feel? To the single moms out there, are you able to give yourself resting time each day? And if so, when is it? What is your favorite relaxation activity? How long did it take you before you realized you truly needed that for yourself and your kids? Okay, that is it. Please definitely share and subscribe. I can't wait to hear from you all and see the discussion among yourselves as well as me too. Thank you so much again. God bless you all. Remember to ask Jesus to come into your heart and mind and realize with Him it is possible. And above all, things just go so much better in your life. Take care. I will be back soon.